Today, I wanted to talk about jealousy because I was just thinking about it the other day and I was thinking how interesting of an emotion jealousy is. There's a lot of emotions that are like negative, they're like put in a box as like negative emotions. Jealousy, anger, sadness. Like, I personally think they're all needed. I think they all, benefit us in some way. Sometimes you need to be angry, sometimes you need to be sad about shit. Do you know what I mean? But that's a different conversation. But jealousy, I feel like, is interesting because it's one that's, branded as like, a negative emotion. It's not good to be jealous. It's the green-eyed monster, as Shakespeare once said, I believe. I was thinking about like all the negative emotions that we feel. I feel like jealousy is one that we feel like too embarrassed to like admit that we feel, even to ourselves. If we're jealous of something, a lot of the time we would really prefer to like bend the situation or like paint it as being unfair or like it's injustice of some sort before we would just say like, no, you're just jealous. Do you know what I mean? It feels like such a hit to the ego to admit that you're jealous of something or someone. It feels embarrassing and like shameful. Whereas I feel like if you're angry or you're sad or something, like they're not easy to feel either, but I feel like we have an easier time being like, oh, like I'm just mad about that. We quite a lot of the time use anger instead of a lot of the more like painful emotions. We're just like, no, I'm just mad about it. When it's like, no, you're like probably upset a lot of the time. Do you know what I mean? Depends on the situation. But my point is, I think saying to yourself or other people like, I'm just really jealous of that. Like, it just feels like, ooh, it like cringes you, and it's like just such a unique emotion in that way that like so many complexities to it. Jealousy, as much as it's not fun to feel, I think it can actually have some positives if you view it right. So today I kind of wanted to talk about using jealousy as fuel, right? Using it as a motivator to make changes and do shit that you want rather than just sit in it. Whether it's oh my god, it could be anything. Jealousy comes up in relationships, in friendships, in even just like through social media. You see people and you're like, oh, I'm jealous that that they're athletic or of their body or of their hobbies, or they look after, or they wake up early and I never do that, or they seem to like be good at something, or they're succeeding in their job, or like someone's doing well. There's almost no area where jealousy can't come up. And a lot of the time we feel jealous about things that we just feel like fucking stupid. We're like, why am I jealous about this? Do you know what I mean? That's another thing. It's like we get annoyed at ourselves sometimes if you're jealous because you're like, it makes no sense. Why do I feel like that? But I do think if we play our cards right, we can actually gain a lot of valuable information from what is making us jealous. If there's something in your life right now, I'll give you a second to think about it, that is making you jealous or is annoying you. That's another thing, is you might not even be at the point where you're like, yeah, that's something I'm jealous of. You might just be annoyed, right? Like, I think a lot of the time if something gets under your skin and it annoys you, sometimes there's some jealousy in that. It's so dependent on the situation. But if you can think of anything you're jealous of right now, maybe keep that in mind when you're listening to the episode, as I'm talking about how you can kind of view it from a different way so that it's not so fucking painful and it's also not useless. You can actually use it as fuel to sometimes get the thing you're jealous of. If you're smart, you can not just be jealous of it, you could play your cards right and fucking get it. Do you know what I mean? It, again, depends on what it is. Or if not, at least learn maybe what you're doing wrong or what you actually want or how to get, some sort of information. So I read a quote from someone whose name I'm going to butcher. I don't even know how you say this. And that is a man called Cohen Karash. I don't know if that's exactly how you say it, but this is how it's spelled in my brain. And the quote is, he said, "Envy warns us of a situation in which we are performing at a lower level in things which are important to us." Which I found very interesting, right? So jealousy and envy come up when you are performing at a lower level than you want in something that's important to you, For example, if something that would make you feel kind of jealous is seeing on Instagram, but maybe like other girls at like fitness classes and going to Pilates and drinking green smoothies, and you're like, fuck's sake, like, it's like annoying you and it's making you kind of envious because you're like, that's such like a healthy, do you know what I mean? They're so fit and healthy and they're really looking after themselves. If that makes you jealous, sometimes I think that can be because your wellness is important to you, but you're not treating it like it is. You know, you're not putting in that effort. And just because they are, and they are prioritizing it and putting their energy into their wellness, you know, and you're having to see that, it's just highlighting the fact that that's something that's important to you, that you're not treating with any importance. You know, you're neglecting doing that, you know, because if it wasn't important to you and it wasn't something you wanted, it wouldn't get under your skin. This is the thing. It wouldn't annoy you if it wasn't something that you wanted or that you wanted to perform at a better level at. You know, we all know that like something only triggers you if you kind of see something to do with yourself in it, you know? Like it's highlighting that maybe you're being a bit lazy and that your wellness is important to you and you need to fucking go to those workout classes that you like keep seeing. And nothing's really stopping you except your own, you know, lack of discipline. You're just not fucking doing it. And then you see other people doing it and it fucks you off. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't fuck you off if prioritizing your fitness and wellness wasn't majorly important to you. You know, it wouldn't fuck you off, but this is what I mean by it's useful information, because I think a lot of the time jealousy is pointing a direct finger at what you need to be doing. You know, it's very uncomfortable and it's very painful to feel like jealous and less than. It's not a nice feeling and we all know it, and we all don't want to know it, but we all know it. But I think a lot of the time if you're jealous of something, it can be so useful because, like I said, it is directly pointing at this is something that you want and that you should be putting your energy in. Do you know what I mean? It's like almost guiding you towards like what's going to make you happy and fulfilled. And I think a lot of the time, especially at this age, you know, in our 20s, we can feel quite lost and we can feel a little bit like directionless, right? It's like, I don't know exactly what I want to do. But if you pay attention to what is making you jealous in other people, sometimes it's like right in front of your face. Do you know what I mean? If you're seeing people run marathons and it's really like getting under your skin, because I know this sounds stupid, but it's not stupid. You know, shit like this does get under our skin. If you see someone's running a marathon or they're training for a marathon or they're improving their running and they're like tracking it on Instagram and you're like, shut the fuck up. No one wants to see you run. Do you know what I mean? Maybe, have you considered that maybe that's something you'd want to do? Sometimes though, it is just like we find things annoying and we don't want them. But I don't think that gets under your skin. I think that's just a little bit like, oh my God, shut up. You know, unfollow the account. Like mildly annoying. But if it's like, oh my God, do you know what I mean? Maybe consider that like you're not actually that directionless. You're not actually that lost. You know, there's probably things that are consistently making you feel a little bit jealous or like triggering you a little bit, you know? And maybe that's not because, you know, you're lost and everyone else knows what they're doing. Maybe it's because someone's doing something you want to do, you know? You know, is it a job that someone's doing? Maybe someone's going solo traveling and you would fucking love to do that and it's like bringing up a little bit of emotion, you know? Or maybe it's like people posting on social media, like having a social media presence, putting themselves out there, making content. Maybe someone's vlogging and it's like, like this person's so annoying. Do you know what I mean? Like we love to bitch and hate on people doing stuff that we don't have the confidence to do, or we're kind of jealous of, or we're a bit envious of, like, what the fuck? We love to hate on that. And, you know, that's literally why people fucking bully in school. Do you know what I mean? You know, we know it's a cliche. It's always a reflection of the person being a bitch. If someone is making you feel like shit about something or bullying you in some way, you know, we know that it's always like they're lacking in some way, they're feeling like shit, and they just want to make you feel like shit, you know? And it's the same thing of like, if you are mentally, or even to be fair with your friends maybe, just kind of being a bit shitty towards someone for something, you know, they're probably not harming you. Like maybe you're just jealous. Do you know what I mean? And as much as this is the thing, we're embarrassed to admit it. We're embarrassed to admit that to ourselves. But if we can get past that point of like painting the situation as something else and just see that we're fucking jealous, sometimes you can actually be like, okay, well, that's showing that actually I think I would like to go solo traveling, or I'd actually quite like to run a marathon. I just like, you know, a lot of the time the reason we feel shit about it is because we know we could be doing these things. We know we've just been lazy. We know we've just giving excuses for something, and they have actually got up off their ass and actually put the time and the effort in to succeed in some area or to go and do something. You know, I think that is often when it pisses us off, is when we're like, I could be doing that. Or if I started like 5 years ago, I could be in the position they're in, but I haven't fucking bothered. Or I've been doing other shit. Do you know what I mean? If you're looking at someone in a position that you could never be in, it's a different kind of like, it's not a real under my skin kind of jealousy. Do you know what I mean? If someone's born with loads of money, you know, their family's really rich, that can be a bit annoying. You know, people having some privileges that you don't can be annoying, but you kind of have this distance from it of like, but that's just not the situation I'm in. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a different kind of annoyance. But if the person that you sat next to in school, do you know what I mean? Someone that is very much in the same boat as you has actually just got their head down since like 17 and they've been working on like a business of some sort and now they're making a fuck ton of money, do you know what I mean? That's when it will get under your skin because you're like, I could have fucking done that, you know, and you still could fucking do that. But like that is when it's kind of calling you out, you know? But this is what I mean by jealousy can be utilized because, by the way, it has started raining. So let's ignore that. This might be a short episode if it carries on raining. But yeah, like I said, jealousy can be utilized because if you're smart, you know, you can emulate and imitate what people have done to get to places that you want to be. You know, a lot of people do this with like billionaires and stuff, like, you know, with like the 5 a.m. club and like all of the things that like these really mega successful like moguls and shit do. People will try and emulate that if they have their own goals because it's like, well, their methods and their routines and their rituals that they did kept them on track and it made them successful. And I think it's important to like infuse your routine and what you do with something more personal, you know, someone else's exact method or like the exact moves they made. You know, if you copy that, it's like, if you do it too like you're trying to do exactly what they did, then I think it's a little bit, it's not necessarily going to lead you to something that will make you as an individual happy. You know, I guess it's kind of about studying the moves someone made and kind of taking notes, you know, and copying certain parts. There's nothing wrong with copying certain parts and maybe like changing some other parts so that it's more like personalized plan, you know. But you know, I think that's so much more productive than, like I said, painting a situation as injustice because it's too hard on the ego, you know. Like I said, if you're smart about it, you can look all around and there's so many sources of inspiration and so many things people are doing that you could take notes from. You know, we could learn from each other in a million ways and someone else could look at you and learn from you in a million ways. And I think if you look at shit like that rather than having your ego so tied up in it, which is so much easier said than done, but if you can do that, you're actually way more likely to succeed and to get what you want and to have a happier life because you're not holding yourself back from trying shit because you think it's embarrassing, because, you know, it makes you feel like you're a failure and someone else is succeeding and you're not, and it must say this about you and say that about them. You know, if you can just change the narrative a little bit and like admit that maybe there's some areas where you have been a bit lazy, or maybe if you did decide to do certain things before, you know, there's certain things that you can be jealous of that you can also admit like, I could have been doing that, you know, it's my own fault. But it doesn't mean I'm any less capable than the next person. You know, we're all just like people out here guessing and trying. And like, you know, we could all learn from each other and it doesn't mean anything on any of us. Do you know what I mean? We're all perfectly capable, but we all do have different skill sets and stuff. That's why, like I said, it's important to like make the plan a little bit more individualized and try shit that other people are doing. But if it doesn't work for you, try something else, you know, because we are all different. But like, you know, no one's like more capable than the next person. I think a lot of it comes down to your willingness to try and how much you let your ego hold you back, and also how dedicated you are to something. You know, a lot of success comes down to discipline and consistency, you know. But I'm talking now about like goals and you know, getting shit. But you can be jealous of so many other things, you know. It could just be like you go to someone's house for dinner and they've cooked and it's really good and you're like kind of jealous because you're like, I can't fucking cook, or like I couldn't host something like this, do you know? That can make you jealous too, and it can make you then start to feel incompetent in other ways. Like things can really get under our skin in like general daily situations. Like I said, it can show up in friendships and in relationships a lot as well. Like jealousy comes up in relationships a lot, and again, painful as fuck, but it is often pointing a finger at something that you can do something about. It's like rarely like, oh, I'm jealous of this thing, I can't have it. It's almost always like pointing at something that you could change or you could try harder at, you know? You know, because jealousy really, it is a mix of discontentment and admiration. Do you know what I mean? It is a blend of both. You're discontent about something in yourself, but you're also admiring the fuck out of something in someone else. And that can, you know, of course that's a hit to the ego because it's you thinking, I don't like this in me, but I really like it in them. Fuck. Do you know what I mean? That's not a nice feeling because like we want to feel proud of ourselves and happy with who we are and what we're achieving and how we are as a friend and a girlfriend and, you know, any other roles that you kind of play in your life. You know, you want to be good at it and you want to feel happy with how you are in it, and to look at someone else, you know, maybe you're a parent or something and you look at another parent and you're like, fuck, like they're doing this right and they're doing this right and I'm not doing that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not showing up enough in this area, or I'm too busy doing this and blah, blah. We're always going to be falling behind in certain areas, and it's not good to constantly compare. And I also think jealousy, as long as you're not being malicious about it, you're not being making you act out and be immature and like ruin shit for other people. Do you know what I mean? If someone else is succeeding and you're being a bitch to them, you're bullying, or like someone's in a relationship and you want one, so you're trying to sabotage it or something. This is why it's good to be self-aware about stuff, because you might not know why you're being a bitch about certain things, and you could go through your life just being kind of a shitty person because you're not admitting that like any of it is a reflection of you. It's just, I don't know, I think jealousy is fucking fascinating because it's like one of those emotions that is like an emotion within an emotion within an emotion. Like, it takes a lot to really understand why you feel it sometimes, and to even get to the point where you feel it. It's like really interesting. But I do really think that we can use jealousy as fuel in our daily lives, noticing where it comes up for you, and also having an awareness that everyone has a mixed bag in their life. If you're jealous of something in someone else, like if someone has a really nice car and you're jealous of it, you might not know that they're a shit driver. Do you know what I mean? You might not know that they get parking tickets all the fucking time and that they like are really irresponsible with their money. You might not even know that they don't even pay for it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to have like a head on your shoulders that's like, you can take everything with a grain of salt. If you're jealous of certain areas in someone's life, it does not mean you know the fucking whole picture. No one has everything, and I think social media really doesn't help with that, because like I said, you could look on Instagram and see these girls going to like Pilates and having a green juice, and you're like, fuck, they're so healthy and happy and glowing, but then they could be fucking miserable in other areas. You really, really don't know, and it's almost it's actually guaranteed that everyone has a mixed bag. So I think if you keep that knowledge in your head, then you can utilize jealousy and use it as fuel and see that, oh, this is something pointing at something I want. This is showing me and highlighting to me areas that I should, like something I'm drawn towards or something I didn't know I wanted. But now it's making it quite clear what you want, and that's actually sometimes drawing you towards, when you feel lost and directionless, drawing you into like, hey, you'd love to do this, try it. And then you try it and, hey, you'd love to do you know what I mean? Like, if you use it in a positive way, then I think you can really use it as fuel in your life. I just think you have to take it with a grain of salt and be realistic about the fact that everyone's jealous of something from someone. If you don't have that in your brain, you'll just feel like shit about yourself. Do you know what I mean? You have to like keep that knowledge in your brain. But yeah, I'm gonna go because the audio is also shit and I fear it may get worse. So yeah, thank you for listening. This was just some food for thought, something that was on my mind. I hope you found it interesting or could apply it to your life in some way. Yeah, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and I will talk to you next Tuesday.